Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you a more affordable way to practice your pipe welding if you're having a hard time finding like 12-inch, because as some of you know, some of you may not know, one of the most common pipeline weld tests is a 12-inch on 12-inch branch, and also a butt weld, either on a regular, a 5G or a 45. But 12-inch pipe is hard to find, even 8-inch pipe. Sometimes that bigger pipe is hard to find. So today we've got a piece of 2 7/8 pipe, like a little over an 1/8 inch thick. I've got a little bevel on it here, and just fence pipe, structural fence pipe. That's all this is. So way easier to get a hold of, and it's a good thing to practice right here. So what we're gonna do, if you're having a hard time finding practice pipe and whatnot for pipeline welding, if you want to get into pipeline welding, is I've got a piece of, like I said, 2 7/8 pipe and a piece of 3/8 by, looks like 5 inch flat strap. So all I'm gonna do is cut a hole in this piece of plate to match the ID of this, and then I'm going to put a bead in it with 1/8 60-10, and I'm going to put at least 3, if not 6 passes all the way around this. And that is going to be some good practice for pipeline fabrication, because on pipeline fabrication we put what we call OLETs on sometimes, and they're literally something just like this, 2-inch, 1-inch, 1/2 inch, on up to 4-inch, 6-inch, but like a common one is 2-inch, kind of like we got over here. This here is 2-inch pipe. I was practicing this the other day. I made a video previous to this if you're interested. Welding with 6013, 532 6013, and I do not have very much experience with 6013, so I just wanted to share it here on the channel. In that video, I shared what I learned through the little bit of welding that I did on this weld here. All that to say is 2-inch is a common piece of pipe to practice with, like a 2-inch OLET, putting a piece of, a 2-inch OLET on 12-inch or, 8-inch or even 24-inch, you know what I mean? But so this is kind of like a simulator, if you will, but it doesn't cost near as much as pipe. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get the ID, which means inside dimension, which is 2.5 roughly. I'm going to go ahead and mark center of this, which is 2.5 as well. 2.5 from this side, and this isn't critical. You could literally just, if you're just practicing, you could literally just put this here, eyeball it, make a mark on the inside, and go with it. But this is actually good practice for fabrication. So actually measuring where you're going to put your OLET, making sure your pipe's level and everything. And we're going to put a little punch mark. And then you can either hand cut this, which I do recommend, because whenever I was pipelining, I didn't have the circle burner. Those of you that have been following, you know about the circle burner that we offer in the AROS Welding store. And if I had a lot of holes to do on like a pipeline job, like if I was building a header or something out on a pipe fabrication job, I would definitely use this circle burner. But if I just got 1 or 2 OLETs to put on out on a pipe fabrication job, I would just cut it by hand. That's good practice anyway. But so today I think I'm gonna cut it by hand. So like I said, you can either trace the inside of your OLET, or in this case this piece of pipe, or you can use a compass situation here. And I should probably just trace the inside of that, because that, well, I'm gonna go ahead and use that just for video's sake. So 1/2 inch and a half, half of 2.5 is what? 1.25 inches, so 1.25 inches. Now I can put this here, line this up with my mark, like so. And then just ease it on around here. There you have it. Go ahead and check it. Oh yeah, beautimous. All right, let's light up a torch. I do recommend a nice clean torch tip, especially on pipe fabrication. And depending on what piece you're building on pipe fabrication, you may need to tack a welding rod onto here and have your helper catch it, because you may not be able to get to the inside of the pipe. But on some pipe fabrication, you can, you know, it's big enough pipe you can get in there, you know, or the pipe short enough where you can reach your arm in there. But if it's not, it's actually a good habit just to tack something to this so it doesn't fall in the pipe. Now, like I've said before, preheat is key. You could definitely use 1/4 inch. I wouldn't use any less than 1/4 inch plate. I don't know, just like standard wall pipe is 375, which is what we have here, so that's why I went with this. You could go with 1/2 inch or heavier or whatever, you know. It's all good to practice on, but I think 3/8 is just a good, safe bet. Alright, time to pierce. You notice I'm starting on the inside. I'm not going to start out here because on pipeline work that would be a huge no-no to punch in out there, because that's your good stuff. Punch in on your junk stuff. I'm going just on the inside of the line. And I'm keeping my torch 90 with the plate, and you would do the same on a piece of pipe. The same as in, even if this was round like this, I would still keep my, well, kind of depends on what size of pipe. Sometimes you might, like on the branch test, 12 on 12 branch test, you would want to follow, you know what I mean, the contour like this. But on just a 2-inch hole or maybe smaller, you can keep it 90, because then it just makes the wall thickness, it just makes the wall thickness kind of a continuation of your, you know, of your eaulet that you're putting on, versus if you had it, well, anyway, I won't get into all that. But on the branch test, you want to follow the contour of your pipe. Putting on an eaulet, especially a smaller eaulet like 2-inch or less, you can try to keep it, again, depending on the thickness of pipe, you can try to keep your torch straight up and down like so. Alright, and again, if I was welding on a piece of pipe, I would want to take my file and run on the inside and make sure I get that slag off. If your torch is nice and clean though, you really shouldn't have to worry about it too much. And obviously, if you need to clean it up, you can kind of take a die grinder, maybe even a cone rock, you know, and go in there. But as long as you got a good cut and everything, like I might take my grinder and kind of clean that up right up here. But I'm not gonna take a rock in here or nothing. Like I said, on some jobs I would, but on this one, on something like this, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. As long as I'll put it this way, as long as my cut is pretty clean, like it is here, I'm not going to worry about cleaning it. But if it was real jagged and it had some slag and I had to beat my centerpiece out or something, then I'd probably want to take a cone rock and clean that up a little bit. You just want to be real careful, especially on pipeline work, to not grind way out here on your pipe, because again, that's looked down upon in pipeline work. It's not good for the integrity of the pipe. So, got my 2-inch pipe, or this would be considered 2.5-inch pipe. I'm sorry. 2 7/8 OD is usually 2 and 2.5-inch pipe. So what I'm going to do is obviously get your pipe level and everything. So normally I would have a torpedo out here, you know, leveling this eaulet. But anyway, I'm going to tilt it back I'm gonna tilt it back like this. That's dramatic, obviously, but I'm gonna put a tack here, and then I'm gonna tap it back this way until it's level, you know, if we were actually leveling it. And then I'll put my level this way and get it level this way. And I've got 1/8, 6/10 here. I'm on 150 range on my machine, and I'm on 40. It has been a minute since I've put on an OLED. Torpedo level, check it. In this case, I'm just gonna look at the gap. So I usually hit my starts on these, but they can't actually x-ray OLEDs on pipeline. All they can do is look inside and make sure you got full penetration. Some gas companies are worse than others. ONEOK is one of them that I've worked for. It was actually my first pipeline fabrication job, and they wanted to see full penetration inside your OLED. So it's always been a habit to me to hit my starts. Like I said, normally I may put a tack here and a tack here, but I've got a wider space over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit my tacks, and I'm gonna take off this way, and then I'm just gonna come on around this way, because that should close that up a little bit. Should make it lean this way and open this space up just a hair. Should, a little bit. I'm also starting with a new welding rod. That's a good practice also on pipeline work, just to lessen the chance of arcing outside the bevel. You know, your rod gets stuck. Hair a bit wide. I'm gonna go bump her down a little bit. Again, a new welding rod. I tell you what, I absolutely need a little practice. I've always somewhat enjoyed welding on OLEDs though. A lot of guys don't. Yeah, this space over here is a little more better. A little better space. It's a little flat in here, but it's all broke down. There's a little spot where I tied in here, didn't tie in the greatest. Get a flashlight so y'all can see a little better. It gets a little heavier on this quarter right here. Like I said, that tie-in right there isn't really ideal. It gets real heavy right here, because this was our wide side, if you remember. Stepped her in there real nice like. And then kind of a not so great tie-in over here, but it's all in there. Now I'm going to take a 1/8 grinding disc and grind all this down, and then I'll use a 532 7010, also known as hippie rod, to put our hot pass in, and then 2 passes of the same rod on top of it. One on bottom and one on top. Alright, I'm on 150 on my coarse current and 50 on my fine current. 532 7010. You could also practice with, you know, 7018 or anything, but this downhill rod is just a common pipeline rod, is why I'm choosing to use it. I mean, you could literally practice with 6011 also. You don't have to practice with this 710 and 010. I mean, if you can, that's great. Man, this is making me miss pipeline work. There's just something soothing about welding with this cellulose rod, downhill rod. And welding in a circle. I don't know. I can't explain it. I'm just telling you, it just feels like I'm right at home. I can't explain it. Alright, there's our essentially a hot pass. Now, like I said, I'm going to put one on the bottom and then the top. It's also good to practice putting one on the top first and then on the bottom. Because if the inspector doesn't specify, or the procedure doesn't specify whether you need to start on the top or bottom when it comes to multi-passes, it doesn't really matter, so that's why it's good to practice both. But obviously, we need to follow what the procedure is, or what the inspector is calling for. I'm still on 50, still running a 532 7010 hippie rod, hippie. thing I forgot to mention is I staggered my starts. On my hot pass, I started right in here. On this next pass, I come over a couple inches and started. That's another thing that you're supposed to do with welding. Makes a better quality weld whenever you got a multi-pass situation like this. It's good to stagger your starts. Anyway, there's the second pass. Now we're fixing to put on pass over the top of that. Right now would be a great time, like out there on the real job, pipe fabrication job, would be a good time to take a break, go get a drink of water, and just let her cool off. Just letting it cool off for 2 or 3 minutes can make a big difference, much less if you take about 5 minutes, you know. Because whenever you're putting a final pass on this, it's, especially if you're just starting, but even if you've been welding for a long time like myself, it's common when it's hot, and with this type of welding, any type of welding rod really, it's common to get undercut on the top of this next pass we're fixing to put on. But by letting it cool off, that'll help eliminate some of that undercut. Water, coffee, anything, just take a break. I'm a coffee kind of guy. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. I'm fixing to put this last pass on with our 532 7010, but I forgot to mention earlier, if you are putting on a real thread OLET, they got what they call an OLET, which is no threads, it's just got a bevel on this other side, and then they got what they call a thread OLET. By the way, an OLET is just a piece that's already, it's essentially pre-coped to whatever size of pipe. You know, you got 2-inch to 8-inch, 2-inch to 12-inch, and whatnot, and then it's already coped and it's tested, it's molded, you know, tested. It's molded and tested for pressure. Anyway, if it's a thread OLET, you can take your acetylene to keep your splatter from getting on the threads on the inside or on the outside. If your threads are on the outside, you can take your acetylene and turn it down until the black soot is coming off, and take that black soot and put it, you know, on your threads, and that helps keep the splatter from sticking to your threads. All right, now I'm gonna start way over here, because my first pass I started right here, second pass I started over here, so now I'm gonna start way over here, and that way all 3 of my starts are in a different place. Stick my rod, let it warm up a little bit. For some reason, I love the way this looks right here. That the color, how that black is covering up this, the light colored smoke on the bottom. It just looks kind of cool to me. I also like to either take a wire brush or a welding rod here and scrape this slag off. This isn't something I always do, but like whenever I'm trying to get one looking just real nice, I'll actually even take a grinder and grind that down. But at minimum, I take a wire brush. At minimum, I use this welding rod to scrape it off, or file, you know. But then the next minimum is a wire brush. Brush it off real good, 1 inch or 2 back. That way I can come on over, you know, past my start a little bit and pull out right in here. see my bottom start here and my top start way over here. That is not ideal. We'll look at that here in a minute. First we'll get a pan of the whole thing. Now this is what they call a blister, which I'm fixing to take a 1/8 grinding disc and grind into it. I don't think it, I could be wrong, but I don't think it is that deep. But either way, that's not okay to leave as a visual. Either grind it off, and as long as it's still, you know, as long as there's still enough meat there, you just leave it with the grinder mark, or you put a band-aid over it. Anyway, there you have it. Pipeline practice. Practice for pipeline by welding a piece of fence pipe to a piece of plate. No more blister. Mostly just a visual thing, but it's actually good to grind into it just to make sure it didn't go down deep. You could also go ahead and put 3 more passes on top of this, 5 more on top of them, so on and so forth, because there will be welds out there. If you pipeline long enough and around pipe work long enough, you will come to heavier wall pipe where you're gonna have to put multi-passes over and over again. So you could literally you could weld all the way out to here and put another one over here and have this obstacle in your way. I mean, you got a lot of welding practice just right here on a 12, 14-inch piece of plate and a 3-inch piece of 2.5-inch pipe, or 2-inch, whatever pipe you choose to use. But this is real good practice. So like I said, you can use 60-11, doesn't matter, 70-18, and practice with whatever rod you want to practice with. But from my experience pipeline welding, if you're serious about getting into pipeline welding and you're not old enough to go to work yet, or you can't find a pipeline job yet, you can be getting practice just by having a piece of 3/8 plate and a piece of 2-inch pipe. I hope this video was helpful. If you do end up welding a piece of this just like we did in this video, feel free to send me a picture to the community text number 405-643-7176. I would love to see that you're practicing with this idea. That would just tickle me pink. Also, if you're at the stage where you don't have any welding equipment yet, you don't have a welding rig, you don't have, nothing whatsoever yet, check out our online course, The Quick Rig, to get all the information you need to put together your first welding rig, just so you can get started. I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, you don't have to have it all to start, but you have to start to have it all, whatever all is to you. If you want to be a pipeline welder, to become a pipeline welder, you have to just start. You can't just start out being a pipeline welder. You can't just, it's a gradual process. So that's one of the reasons we created the Quick Rig course, is just so you could just get started. So head on over to aroswelding.school to check that out, as well as a couple other courses we have over there if you're interested. And for more helpful resources, tools lists, and such, you can check out our other website, aroswelding.com. Thanks for stopping by today. Hope you have an awesome day. And remember, learn something every day.